The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Amanda, and I am here in Western Australia today running this webinar. As you are all jumping online, if you want to send me a question, there's a question box, and I'll be able to answer your question. Today, our social media and photography workshop is brought to you by the Small Business Development Corporation and the Government of Western Australia. And I'll just let everyone log in and make sure that you're all coming in and you're ready to go. It's beautiful weather here in Western Australia today. I am in the city of Rockingham and the sun is shining, and I think we can have a hint of summer, which is really lovely. So as you log on, if you want to send me a question, look at the question bar and then I can answer your question as well, so that today we can really focus on the information that we're bringing you. Today's workshop is all about social media photography. So we're really going to zone in on some really simple tips and tricks and some photography focuses to be able to help you upskill your photography so that for your business, that whatever you're posting on social media is upgraded and really meeting the audience that you were looking for. Well, let's get started, even though we've still got a few more people logging in. Just checking that you guys are okay. Maybe some of you could send me whereabouts in Western Australia you're tuning in from, so I can make sure that I have the question box that is answering as well. So today, Vic Park. We have someone coming in from Vic Park, which is awesome. Wattle Grove. I'm not far from you in Kwinana. I'm in South Perth. I'm in Exmouth. Welcome to those in Exmouth. I'm in Waikiki. I'm in East Perth, Bertram, Geraldton. Welcome to Geraldton, Darlington. Well, that's really exciting to see all the different people who are coming from all different parts of Western Australia. Let me talk to you a little bit about what the Small Business Development Corporation does so that you can access their services at any point. And in the email that went out to you to confirm your attendance to today's workshop, there was an overview of all of my slides so that you can go back and you can have a look at the slides and you can use them as a tool to be able to upskill your social media photography. So go and have a look for the link for that, and there's a great opportunity for you to find that. So it's in the email that came to you to confirm the webinar. And also another thing that is helpful, if you want a recording of today's webinar, then get in contact with the Belmont Enterprise Centre and they will be able to help you with that. So the Small Business Development Corporation has subsidised this workshop and provides the following free services. They provide the services of one-to-one advice and guidance. So for you to be able to call in and get some advice for your business. They also help you with dispute resolution. So if you have a dispute between business to business or business to client, it's an opportunity for you to be able to get the information that you need to be able to get the service that you require from the Small Business Development Corporation. Another amazing opportunity that you have from this corporation is to get advice on commercial property and tenancy advice. So you can go onto their website or you can call in or you can email and get advice on that. Another thing that I've found as a business owner to be really helpful is the free guides, the tools and the checklists that can be found on their website. And my last slide from today's workshop, we're going to be working together for about 2 hours. And the last slide of today's workshop gives you all the contact details. So if you download the slides and you have a look, you'll be able to grab them. Or if you want to grab a pen and paper now, or you could type them into the notes on your phone. It's a great opportunity for you to be able to find the website, to get the free guides, tools and checklists as a business owner to be able to help you. Another thing that you might be looking for is a business license, to check the license of another business, or even sometimes when you're out and about and you need yours as well. It's an opportunity for you to search their online business license finder. So that's a great tool and a resource that you can use there. And another thing that's quite new as a part of their Facebook group is virtual networking, to be able to learn and ask questions from local small businesses from Western Australia. So go and look on Facebook and find an opportunity for you to be able to do that. Let me talk a little bit about where I'm coming from today and who your presenter is today. So my name is Amanda Vivier. I am an author. I have just published my 10th nonfiction book, and I mostly speak about creativity, being able to help businesses and help individuals to find their creative voice. So that's where I'm speaking from today. I'm a regular speaker at events, but obviously my event speaking calendar has completely been wiped over the last 6 months. But I'm so glad that we've been able to pivot and bring this event to you in the midst of this webinar. I'm also a creative coach and I'm a radio presenter. It says here that I've published 5 books, but I've recently just stepped into my 10th book that has been published, and I'm the co-founder of Kin Women. I'm on the radio daily across Australia and New Zealand, and I have a business which is called the Boardroom Retreat, and I create professional and personal development for leaders. I'm a specialist in online communications, marketing, and finding your brand voice. And mostly what happens is today I'm coming to you as a fellow business, a fellow business operator. I have 3 different businesses. And so I'm coming to you with someone who's grappled with how much social media is now present in our business worlds. And I'm able to then help you with that. So social media, when it comes to social media, it is all about the quality of your photos and your brand. I don't know about you, whether you've sat on your phone or you've sat at your computer and you've wondered, what photos am I going to post for my social media? And maybe you've got a group of stock photos that you use for your business. Maybe you've sat before the content on your social media and you've gone, what is it that I'm going to post? I've definitely had times where there's been complete blanks, and I've wanted to increase the quality of my brand and the way that I present. So social media's today's webinar is all about helping you to upskill what content you are creating for social media. And if you've been a part of any of my other webinars where I've talked about social media as a branding opportunity and an opportunity to meet with your audience, I always talk about in my webinars the opportunity for your interaction with the community. Social media is a communication mechanism. It's a conversation. And I think sometimes when I watch businesses and the way that they interact with their audience on social media, they can be so focused on their products, they can be so focused on their services that they forget that it's an entertainment channel. It's an opportunity for you to interact with your community, to create ways for you to have a conversation. So one thing that I talk about when it comes to social media, and I'd like to encourage you in today, is this. Make sure every time you are posting on social media that you are asking of your community, of the people who are following you, that you're asking them a question. You want to start a conversation. And often on social media, the conversation actually starts with a visual image. What conversation are you starting with the visuals that you are creating for your social media channel? Maybe another way that you could think about it is, imagine that the phone in your pocket, because more than 80% of people now access social media, especially the stats have really changed over the COVID period. Most people access social media from their phones. So imagine the phone that's sitting in your pocket, or it's sitting alongside your computer now as you're listening to your webinar, or maybe you're listening to the webinar on your phone. Imagine that it is a TV channel. What kind of content are you creating to engage your audience in? The 3 top engaging content that happens on social media and that is trending at the moment and has been for a long time on social media is this. Number 1, anything to do with people. So people's stories, people's faces, obviously photos of people, photos of your staff, photos of the locality and people in those photos of where your business comes from. Secondly, one of the most trending topics at the moment is food. Everyone loves food. We all have to make meals every day. And so when it comes to recipes, it comes to photos of food, I'm sure you've seen it on people's personal Instagram accounts or their Facebook accounts where they're posting about the restaurant that they've gone to or they're posting about the food that they've created at home. Definitely across the COVID period, there was an increase in the amount of people making sourdough at home and posting photos of their bread. And I think there can be a question, well, how do I do that as a business? And I'm going to come to that a little bit later, because as a business, you don't want to be taking a photo of your breakfast and putting that up on your business account because that's personal. It's not your corporate brand. But so the first is people, second is food, and the last thing, which I would hazard to guess might actually be the most popular, is humor. Using humor to engage with your audience because it's an entertainment channel. And I think what happens as business owners is we start to see it as an advertising channel, and there is a place for advertisements. But if you start to think of the way that you engage in TV now and how our culture has changed in the way that we watch TV and what we're absorbing and how we're looking at the TV, is whenever an advert would come on, what would be the first thing that you would do culturally? Most people would turn it on silent or they'd change the channel to watch something else because adverts get louder, they get more in your face because they're trying to get your attention. And so what I want to talk to you about today is actually creating content that converts, content that really meets your audience where they're at, but content that also engages in conversation and entertainment. So first of all, the quality of your photos and your brand is really important. So in today's webinar, I'm going to talk about how to build your brand and how to increase the quality of your photos. The second thing is your interaction with your community. So rather than shouting at them with the products that you sell or the services that you have, how can you create a conversation with them that is laced with entertainment and humor and cultural activities like our food, and creating a way that you can engage with your audience through entertainment. And the third thing that is really present on social media and is increasingly growing is video. The way that we use video and the opportunity for us to be able to do that. Okay, I've had someone tell me that they can't hear me. I'm just checking in that everyone else can still hear me. I've had someone come in and say that they can't hear me, and that might be their system or it might be mine. So let's just double check on that. So video, let's move on to the next part. Thank you everyone for telling me that you can hear me loud and clear. Okay, fabulous. Thank you everyone. Okay, so let's have a look at this photo here. There's lots of white space that's in the background of this photo. It's a shadow. There's lots of opportunity for you to be able to engage in this photo. This photo tells a story, and yes, it might not match exactly your business or what's happening, but what you can do is you can find a way to be able to describe more from this photo and to really engage in your audience in a new and fresh way. Let's go back and move. One thing that I have going to talk about today is not only the quality of your photos, but I'm also going to talk about ways that you can create social media insights and pictures from Canva. But the first thing I want to bring us to is stock photography. Not always do you have to use the same photography for your social media accounts. It doesn't have to be photography that you have created yourself. So here are 3 really simple sites that you can get stock photography from for your social media brand. So the first one is unsplash.com. So if you write that down or you type it into your Google account, your Google search engine, unsplash.com. I use unsplash.com a lot for my stock photography for my business. And one thing that I've recently found, and the reason why you need stock photography, just let me explain this a little bit more, is that you can't just go onto Google and search an image and then use anyone's image without either crediting the person who's taken the photo, or often a lot of photos have copyright attached to them. So what you want to do is go to a stock photography site and be able to download a heap of different images that really match the brand and the presentation that you were talking about. So recently, for example, on unsplash.com, the United Nations did a COVID campaign on Unsplash where they created social media content that was really outstanding. Lots of illustrations, lots of pictures, lots of opportunities to be able to really pivot with your social media and really zone in on the COVID messaging that you have. So you could type into unsplash.com United Nations COVID appeal or just COVID, and you'll find hundreds of social media images that people have created for free that you can then use for your stock photography. So the way that I used it in my brand is I used the photos as a blog photo, and I used the photos on my Instagram. So I've had designers create content for something that's happening culturally for me to be able to then be a part of that. The second one, which is a lot more corporate, is pexels.com. Has a lot of photos which might be in like offices or computers, or so if your business is quite office orientated, it's a really great way for you to be able to do that. And then another one which has some really great opportunities for copyright free images is Pixabay. So Pixabay it's pixabay.com. So the way that you could use it is you could go up to the top of Unsplash and you could search in the website of Unsplash, say pictures of Perth or pictures of Western Australia, and you'll find hundreds and hundreds of photos that you can use for your okay. I think maybe I'm having some people say that my webinar is going in and out, so we'll just check in on what's happening and keep going. So you can type in the top of Unsplash and you can find a way for you to be able to search for the city of Perth, and there's fantastic photos that you can use on there. So those are three really great opportunities for you to be able to do that. So here's how you would type into Unsplash. So it's a source of freely usable images powered by creators everywhere. So they're high resolution photos. So if you have a look down the bottom, it also shows you some of the photos that are trending right now. So it can help you understand what people are using for their content as well. So flowers, wallpapers, backgrounds, happy, love. So there's some themes that you could bring into your social media content. Let me talk about some apps and some editing apps that can really help you. 2 seconds. I have a question here about crediting. Do you still need to credit the photographer when we get their name and photo from Unsplash? Fiona, you don't need to credit the photographer. You can if you want to. And a really great way that you can do that is to tag into their social media feed as well. So they may repost when you've written about their photos. So creators really love getting credited. But the whole point of Unsplash is that it's copyright free, so you don't have to do that. So it's really up to you and your organization and the way that you want to be able to do that. Mary B, all of those websites are free. So these ones that I've said to you here, these three are all free images. You don't need to pay a stock image license for those photos. And the way that I would do that is I wouldn't use stock photography for every single one of my social media posts. I would find a theme that I want to post about regularly, and I'm going to talk to you about that in a minute with my branding theme. And then I would download a heap of images that match that, and then I would post from that. So, for example, the COVID theme, I would start to do a theme on my social media where I'm speaking into the changes from COVID, but I would use the images from Unsplash to be able to create a professional brand that comes from that. So as a small business owner, I'm not spending all my time trying to take photos and build Canva pics. That there's some opportunity there for me to be able to use both and. I hope that helps you with your questions. I have another question here. Hi, Amanda. I can only see the questions box. Where can I find and open the chat window, please? The chat window on this webinar doesn't seem to be working. So if you guys just send me your questions, then I'll answer your questions and I'll be able to tell you the answers to your questions from there. So thank you, Selena. So Unsplash, apps and editing. Let me go back to apps and editing. So if you have a photo, so for example, there's a trending like challenge right now on Instagram, particularly where women are putting up selfies of themselves and they are championing other women in their lives. But what they've done is they've had to edit that photo and make it black and white. These are 3 apps that are fantastic apps that I'm going to walk you through and help you to edit your own photos to make them more professional. So the first one is Visco, and they're apps that you can download on both the Apple product on your iPhones, or you can do them also on any other phone. They've got different kinds of apps. Also, we have Lightroom and we have Golden Hour. So let me explain these apps for you to be able to upgrade and increase the quality of the photos that you've taken. So Lightroom is available on Android and iOS. It's a really simple photo editing app to help you reframe the light in your photos. One of the greatest issues that you find in photos that we've taken is the light in the photos. And I'm going to talk a lot more about the raw image and when you take the photo and really increasing the quality of it. But Lightroom is a really great opportunity for you to be able to play with the light in your photo so that you can increase the quality of your photo and what it is that you're creating. The next one is Visco. So it's pretty similar, but it's especially really good when it comes to filters and films. So particularly on Instagram at the moment, you'll see a lot of people using filters that make their photos look like film. So Visco, so Vsco, has an Android and an iOS app, so you could download them. But really, honestly, over the last couple of years, the editing capabilities on both iPhones and also Android tablets and phones have really increased as well. So it's the opportunity for you to use the in-house editing apps as well, for you to be able to really increase and change the exposure, the light, being able to straighten your photos, particularly being able to crop your photos. And sometimes you might want to do a brand campaign that where you want to like skew the photo a little bit or put a filter that's really bright colors so it makes it look really interesting and different. Both Instagram, your phones have capability for you to be able to edit. I would say pretty much every single photo that you take should be edited in some ways just to refine and to make the photo better. Another really great opportunity for you to take better that the webinar is dropping in and out. So I'm going to try and move my desk location a little bit closer and see if that helps everyone. So Golden Hour is an app that's an opportunity for us to be able to really think about and be careful around the time of the day that we take our photos. Most of the time that we have a photography session, they'll often say to you, can we do it in the morning for the morning time when the light is really great, or the evening when the light is really great at that time. So Golden Hour is an app that's available on Android and iOS, and it tells you the best time each day to take a photo in the golden hour. So the golden hour is the time that the sun rises and the time sets, and you've got about a half an hour to an hour window where you have amazing sunlight. So if you were going to take photos of some staff, for example, if you were going to take photos, if you run a restaurant and you were going to take photos of a plate, it's an opportunity for you to be able to then take the best photo that you can take. Okay, photo photography. Let's talk about actually increasing the skill and the photos that you were taking. So the first thing that I want to talk to you about is particularly phone photography, because most of us use our phones now to take photos. I have a DSLR camera, so I have a camera that I take photos on as well. But today we're really going to talk about taking photos on your phone. The first thing that I really want to encourage you around, and it's so simple and it sounds a little bit strange. It's like, of course I know that, but the first thing you need to do is clean your lens every single time you take a photo. See, the thing is with our iPhones, is we are holding our iPhones all the time. We might have eaten our lunch, and so often the lens on our camera of our phone is not clear. So before you take any photo, the first thing you should do is clean your lens every time. So if you want to grab your phone now, I'm going to talk you through that. Your lens is on the back of your phone, and the newest iPhones have 3 little lenses, and some of the older models just have 1 lens, but it's the circle that the photo gets taken through. So make sure that you clean your lens every time that you take a photo. The second thing is to set your phone to the highest resolution. So on iPhones, it says HDR. So you go into the settings, and everyone's phones and everyone's settings are different. So if you're struggling to work out where the highest resolution pictures are on your phone, what you can do is just Google the type of phone that you have and then how to set the highest resolution for images. What you want is the highest resolution, so then you can edit it from that. I'm going to talk to you today about the rule of thirds. So the rule of thirds is the way that you set up the photo to make sure that there's space between the object that you are taking the photo of. I'm going to encourage you to turn off all effects. So for example, I talked to you earlier on about the black and white challenge. If you wanted to take a photo, I would take the photo in its original raw state and then edit it into black and white. So often what you'll find, especially some of the new iPhones, they have all of these different studio filters and effects that you can use. The best way for you to take a photo is to actually turn off all the effects and get it in its raw state first and foremost. Then from there, you can edit with the apps that I've showed you before, because you can't go back and take the photo again if you need it in a different state. And the raw state is always going to be the cleanest and the crispest and the best photo possible. And the second part the last part that I want to talk to you about is the shift focus. Make sure that you play with the shifting of the focus on your phone. So if you open up your phone right now, the way that you shift focus is you press on the screen and you'll see a little yellow square, or on your phone it might be a white square. And what that does is it plays around with the focus of the photo that you're taking. So for example, if you wanted to take a portrait photo of someone from your office to be able to use on social media, you want to make sure that you go through all of these steps before you take that photo. So make sure that your lens is clean, make sure that your phone is set to the highest resolution, play around with the rule of thirds, which I'm going to explain a little bit more. Make sure you turn off all effects, so don't use the the filters that are currently there, and make sure you shift focus. So you focus in on the object that you are wanting to be able to take the photo of. So here is the way that you can shift focus and also look at the rule of thirds. So in this photo here, the main focus is the lighthouse. And the lighthouse is the place that we want to take the photo of. But the thing is about photography is often as the photographer, we are focusing on the thing that we really want to take the photo of, but we forget that the background takes up most of the image. So I really want to encourage you around what the background looks like. And that was one of the first photos that I showed you at the beginning of our workshop today. And I want to remind you of that little bird and all the blank space that was behind the bird and the shadow of the tree that the bird was sitting on. If you look at the background of this photo, what can you see? We can see the ocean, we can see grass, we can see rocks, we can see the horizon line, we can see lots of blue sky. One thing that I want to remind you when you're taking photos is to make sure you look in the background as well as the foreground. So what this picture does is it shows you the rule of thirds and it creates a grid. On most phones now, you can actually put this grid onto your photo to remind you of the rule of thirds. And the way that our eyes pick up photos and we look at the composite picture of the photo that we're looking at is our brain and our eyes categorize it into 3 sections. So if you open up the settings on your phone right now, you would be able to see that you can turn on the grid. And when you turn on the grid, what you want to do is you want to make sure if there were any straight lines in the background of your photo, that they are straight. You can do this later through the editing apps. But one thing that I see often businesses do is they'll be posting a photo of the city of Perth and it will be the horizon line will be not straight. Or they'll post a photo of Cottesloe and the horizon line is not straight. It's really important that the background really emphasizes and is really bringing all the focus into the foreground. And sometimes we just don't realize that what's in the background is actually distracting us from the subject that we are wanting to take the photo of. So for example, imagine that this photo now that the lighthouse is actually a person and you're trying to get the focus of the photo to be talking about a person as a part of your business, or maybe it's a product and you're trying to focus on the product. Imagine if the background was really distracting. It wasn't soft and inviting and the horizon lines weren't straight. Straight away, the image would look not as professional because there's not that same consistency or strategy around the space that's created to bring what is in focus to the forefront. So that's where this grid option on your phone is a really great way for you to be able to take better photos. So if you have a look where the grid intersects, often what people will do is they'll line up their subject on one of those points of the rule of thirds. So if you have a look at the photo from the bottom to the top, there's 3 different sections to the photo. If there's a way that you can set up your photo so that there's a lot of space around what it is that you're taking the photo of, especially in social media for your business, you might want to put a quote over off to the side. You don't want it to be super busy. You want to be able to edit it so it looks really professional for your social media accounts. And then secondly, if you look across from the left to the right, there's also 3 sections as well. So the way that the photographer has lined up this photo is he's created the focus of the lighthouse to be in one of the thirds. but he's created the other two of the thirds. So from the 2/3, from the left to over to the middle section, he's created lots of space within that for the photo to feel really clean. One thing that I often see on social media at the moment is that we try to really create the focus of the product or the service or the person, the point of the image really. What we do is we make that fill up the whole of the square. So imagine if you were thinking about an Instagram square right now. Instagram and Facebook are really noisy. So it's really important that you have lots of white space or lots of blue space or lots of sky space around the photos that you're creating. Because as people look at it on a small phone, the space is what creates a connection for them to be able to really focus on what it is that you are asking them to focus on. So in today's webinar, I really want you to think about the way that you're lining up your photo to be able to have really clear thirds and clear opportunity for you to be able to create space around your photo. Whether you want to edit it later and put words on top, you could put your logo on top. But for you to be able to do that, there needs to be lots of space around the subject that you're taking the photo of. Let's look at another photo and see how it's impacted by the rule of thirds. So what is in the top rule of thirds, the top third of the photo and the top of the page? Lots of sky. What's in the middle of the photo is the small hills. What's in the bottom of the photo, in the bottom third of the photo, it's lots of grass. So the way that the photographer has set up this photo, and it is a little bit easier on landscapes to be able to really apply the rule of thirds, but what you'll see is the person on the horse, the man on the horse, is riding along the line of the rule of thirds, which is a great opportunity for you to be able to line up the photo so it has balance. So say, for example, you were creating a product photo and you were laying it out and you were doing it from a bird's eye view. You would make sure that you line up the grids so you can turn on the grid photo feature on your phone. Most cameras have it as well. And the reason why they have it is right in the beginnings of the photo that you're taking. If you set up a rule of thirds, if you set up the photo to have space, if you set up the photo so that it's lined up straight, if there's movement in the photo that it's coming across one of those lines, automatically our brain and our eyes will be able to take in all the information that's a part of that photo, and it will be a much more pleasant experience for the viewer to be able to then understand what the focus of the photo is. So the background of your photo trumps the foreground every time. Each and every time you take a photo or you record a video, look at the background and try to make it as plain as possible. So for example, if you have a look at this photo, that's actually a photo of me. I'm standing at the ocean in Point Perrin. There's some details in the bottom of the bottom third of the photo, which is the ocean. It's a rock in the ocean. But I've used the top 2/3 of this photo, which is sky, but I've been able to filter out lots of the color from this photo and then layer over the photo with text. And it becomes a visual opportunity for you to be able to use your photos to communicate your brand identity, some information that you want to be able to give to your audience, but to do it in a way that the background is lined up with the rule of thirds. So for example, you could have a photo like this, and it's quite plain in the background, and you could type over the top of the photo, our cafe is closed on Mondays now due to COVID. So rather than it just being a opportunity for us to be able to do it in a way that is just in the text part, we can use text to be able to really be able to really create a really great sense of clarity around the picture that you are creating. I think something that I see often is lots of colors used in font photography, lots of detail in the background, but what you want is lots of space. You want to make your brand really simple. You want people to be able to know what it is that they're focusing on. And these tools are ways for you to be able to do that. So for example, this is a way that you could use the rule of thirds in taking a photo where you've just got it's in a studio kind of situation. So for me in my office, I create a little studio flat lay. So the technical term is flat lay. So what I do is I have a white desk. It's just from IKEA. It's a really plain white desk. And I lay up my products. So I have a lot of books. So I lay my books down and I take the photo from on top. So this is actually a stock photo from Unsplash. So you could use this as well. Say you had a cafe and you had a special on baby chinos. You could have lots of the pink in the background. You could set up this photo yourself, but then off to the side, you could just write special baby chinos. But it's an opportunity. See how the cup is right over on the left of the rule of thirds of the left. You've got little marshmallows creating like a plain kind of background, which is fine and it makes it fun. But it's an opportunity for you to be able to do that. I have a question here. What about smaller items like jewelry that require more detail, not a flat lay? Do you suggest always shooting in square mode for social to get the ratio right prior to editing? It really depends. Let me answer. There's 3 questions there. So I think if I was taking photos of jewelry, so something that's really detailed, I would use the macro lens or the macro part of your phone so that you're getting a really clear, crisp photo of the fine detail. And one of the things about really trying to take a photo in macro so you're getting a really fine close-up shot is you need no movement at all on the camera. So it would be a good idea if you used a tripod to be able to then just press the photo rather than having to try and hold the photo and take it, because macro shows the movement of the photo really close up. So I hope that helps you, Amanda, with that question. And secondly, I don't think I would shoot in square because Facebook especially, if I was posting on Facebook, the portrait photos really go well with the Facebook layout, and the way that people interact with Facebook is very different to Instagram. So I would edit the photo into a square for Instagram and I would still use the rule of thirds, but I would do it in the after processing of the photo rather than before. I hope that helps you, Amanda, with your question. So let's go back to a flat lay here, and it's an opportunity for you to set up photos that you can use over and over again. So for example, I have my books in a way that I can then use the photos in all different ways. So I might have a cup of tea on the flat lay, I might have a notebook, I might have a pen, but then off to the side, I might edit it later with Canva, which I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about here. So this one here is a flat lay photo, which is from Unsplash, and you could edit into this picture your website. So you could take a photo of your website, you could edit on top the photo onto this phone, and then suddenly you've got lots of clear white space in the background. You've got some food. Remember how I was talking to you about food and how food is really trending right now? Plants are definitely trending right now. So it's an opportunity for you to be able to bring in a little bit of entertainment, a little bit of house beauty, but to do it in a way that's still really backing up and leaning towards your brand. So that's a way that you could edit that in a program like Canva. So you could take the photo of your website, You could even screenshot it on your own phone, and then you could edit it into it. Or you could set up this Flatlay yourself. So what you could do is you could have your phone and you could line up your social media site. So say your Instagram page on a phone. Then you could get another camera or another phone and you could take the photo from on top. So what a Flatlay is it's a bird's eye view with lots of background space and opportunity. And it's particularly great when you have a product. So if anyone here sells a product, it's a great way for you to be able to do that. You could sell services this way, and you could take photos of the services that you provide by doing the same. So you could load up the way that people book your services on a phone, and you could take a photo like this. So as I talked to you about before, and that was what I talked about at the beginning of the webinar when I showed you that membership site, is that you could take a photo like this and then you could add in over the top your branding and your font through Canva and be able to then create an image that really works. I find that portrait images, so that's the longer image, and landscape images, which is the wider image, work much better on Facebook than the squares that are from Instagram. Does it mean that you can't post squares on Facebook? No, it doesn't. But the way that people interact with Instagram is often Instagram people are swiping off to the left to be able to view different people's work, and they jump in and out. Whereas the way that Facebook works is people scroll upwards to read the feed from the bottom to the top. So particularly portrait images, they're able to read the image as they're swiping it up, and it's a longer image. So it means that you're in their feed for longer. I hope that makes sense. You're scrolling from the bottom to the top. So they're experiencing your brand longer because the photo is longer. And that's how those two, how the two work. Yes, Instagram do allow landscape and portrait images at the moment, but people interact with them differently, and your image can be squashed in the actual square feed because the way that the app is created really is for square images. So I hope that helps. So here's another image that you could create from home. And I know it's quite a feminine image, but there's ways that you could lay out an image to be able to create lots of space in the back and for you to be able to use the rule of thirds. So the way that this photo is using the rule of thirds is they have the cup of tea in the middle of the frame. So it's right in the middle of both of the rule of thirds. What I would probably do with this photo, if I was taking this photo, is I would put it a little bit off to the left or the right so there was more space that you could edit over the top, and then you have more uses of the photo in the future. One thing that a lot of people talk to me about is how much time we spend creating content for social media. And what I want to just really encourage you in is if you spend time creating really great quality content, you can repost that content over and over. Don't feel like you have to have new images every month. So for example, at the beginning of the month, you could post something, and then the beginning of the next month, you could post it, because not everyone sees everything on social media now. It's a very different experience as a personal user, as a business page. Personal users, you might see everything that, say, your mum posts because she's your personal Facebook friend. But pages don't integrate into our feed the same way. So just because you've posted something on social media, it definitely doesn't mean that everyone in your feed has seen it. So what I would recommend is that you spend more time getting a suite of photos and a suite of branding kit identity that you use for your business, and you repeat and you repurpose that content. So you're really building the identity of what your business is and the brand that you have. So for example, I put this photo in because there was a shampoo and conditioner range that was launched about 3 months ago from New Zealand. and they're called Monday Hair Care. And Monday Hair Care, their main brand identity is they wanted the quality of products that you would buy from a salon, but that you could buy from Kohl's. So their product, basically their whole social media feed was this color. And over, all they did was post photos from the color that represented their brand, and it was the color of their product. And over again, their brand just went crazy because there was such a strong brand identity around the work that they had put into the color of their product, the color of their feed, and the way that their feed worked. So if you wanted to go over and find their feed, it's Monday Hair Care, I think, is their Instagram feed. But you'll see what I'm talking about. They use this color over and over again. Another brand that has created such a strong brand identity around their color is Coke, for example. Everything that they post is that same color red, and they create a brand identity around it. So not necessarily would you have to post photos of your business. You could post photos which include the color that is the brand identity of your business, and you can really build a strong sense of clientele and engagement with your user from that kind of approach. Another one would be Tiffany's, for example. Tiffany's has a color of their duck egg blue that gets used, and when anyone sees that color, immediately they know that it's a piece of jewelry from Tiffany's, and it's something so strong that's a part of their brand identity. So what does it mean to take a flat lay? Basically what it means is you have a really plain background, you have some objects within it. You could have your product, or you could have your business card, or you could have your food from your cafe, you could have your jewelry, and you take the photo from on top. The things that I really want to recommend that you think about when it comes to flat lays is this. Number one, make sure that your background is really simple. Number two, go back to those beginning things that I told you about taking your photos. Make sure that your lens is clean. Really think about the rule of thirds and whereabouts the object is in that photo. Think about the grid and look at the grid. Make sure lines are straight. If you've got any lines in your photo, or see, for example, in the middle of this, they've got like I don't know what that is. It might be something that is on a diagonal, but that's kind of like a really random layout. But if yours is quite simple, make sure that your product is straight, and then to be able to set up the photo like that. Lighting. Do your best to find natural lighting, and that's why I gave you the app at the beginning of our workshop today, which tells you what the golden hour is, the best time to take photos. Do your best to find natural lighting. So if you were taking a photo of a colleague, if you were taking even a photo of food for your cafe, I have a friend who's an amazing food photographer, and she'll always take the plate of food as close to natural light as she can, or she'll take it outside and she'll set up an actual setting outside to be able to take the photo. Not in full sun. That's why I gave you the golden hour app, because full sun is too bright and you'll find that the detail of your photo is overexposed. Look for natural light, but don't go out in the middle of the day with full sun. So a way that you can do that, in my office, for example, I have light coming into my office window, and it has a soft sheer curtain on it. And the sheer curtain naturally becomes an amazing filter for me to be able to take those flat lays from. The next thing that I want to encourage you in, and when I did this workshop recently in person, well, I said recently, it's probably 3 months ago now, is someone said to me that the latest iPhone has such great capability that you can crop on the photo. And I tried it out this week, and when you zoom in on the photo, even on a really high quality camera, you still don't get the same quality as image as if you don't zoom. So for example, get as close to the subject that you are taking the photo of as possible. If you can't get close enough, you can crop it in the editing phase rather than zooming. You should never zoom in on a camera. It weakens the quality of the photo. So think about, say for example, I'll talk about my mum. She'll grab her phone on her iPhone and she'll zoom it in, because particularly her eyes, she probably should wear her glasses more than she does. So she'll zoom it in. But what happens when you zoom in is it loses the quality of the image. And then also, as you're zooming in, remember how I was talking about a macro lens, and when you use the macro function, which means taking the very fine details of a photo. When you zoom in, it takes more of the movement of the photo. So, for example, what will happen is if you have a photo that's been zoomed in on your camera or on your phone, you'll find that the quality of image is nowhere near as much. So I really want to encourage you, don't zoom in when you're taking your photos. It really changes the quality of your image. You can crop the photo afterwards in the editing phase if you need there to be less background in the image. And if we have a look at the background of this image again, it's a way that you can use a filter over a photo, and then you can add copy on top for you to be able to create really professional content that really communicates the message that you're wanting to communicate to your people. So the next thing I really want to talk to you about is your brand. I've talked a lot about brand identity. I've talked about colors. I've talked about fonts. I've talked about ways that you can do that. Your brand is imperative. You can't suddenly just change your brand overnight. You have to take people on a journey of that. Your color impacts your brand. The words that you use impacts your brand. The type of images that you choose impacts your brand. It's a great opportunity for you to create a brand kit identity where you're really clear on what your fonts are, what your colors are, what your logos are. And you can use your logos, you can use your colors in social media. So you're not always using photos. You could use a original photo once every few posts. You could use a stock photo. You could use content that you've created on a system like Canva, which is a little bit like the old school Microsoft publisher kind of program, but it's online, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So for example, one of my businesses is called the Boardroom Retreat. So there's our logo down the bottom. We have our tagline, which is growing capacity. And often what we'll do is we'll create an image with lots of white space in the background, because particularly Instagram gets really overwhelmed. And if you put up stuff with lots of white space, people really like it. I think we just find social media so noisy. So we just put really simple quotes up all the time, and the quotes are from the people in the business. So for example, if you're an owner of a cafe, you could put up a quote about food and why you love food. So one of the local restaurants here, I helped them with their brand identity, Rusticos, and they're a Spanish restaurant. And so every few posts, they just put up a Spanish word and they talk about the Spanish word. So that really builds into the brand identity of what it is that you're creating. So for example, here, this is another business that I'm a part of, which is called Change a Story Events. It has a question on it. So I've created a really simple piece of artwork with the word change. It uses the brand kit of the font. You use the same font over and over again, but I create a quote and I intersperse it with photos so that you're not having to always put up photos. You can intersperse it with lots of space and a color that matches your brand identity. So here's another one that I created on Canva. Awake, what does it mean living awake to you? So it's created a little illustration, which is a part of Canva. But what I do is I sit down and I spend an hour creating images and creating content like this that's really simple. And then I put them into a folder. I put them into a scheduling app. Like a scheduling app that I really love is one called later.com. And then what I'll do is I'll have, say, 25 posts that I could post once a week. And then from now to the end of the year, my social media content has really great brand identity. and I'm not sitting in front of my phone going, okay, what am I going to post next? So for example, here's another quote. I've picked up a quote. It's got that same illustration edge. It's got that same color that's really coming through on the brand identity. Here's another one here. It's using the same fonts. So what I'll do is I'll sit and I'll make 30 or 40 different little pictures, and I'm just copying them. So I'm not recreating them all the time. But every few posts, I'll put up something like this. This is a great way. You could even put up feedback that you've got from your clients or from your social media pages or from TripAdvisor. You could take the feedback that you've got from people and you could put it as a quote. So it becomes something that you're creating a sense of interest in your feed. It's not always the same thing. So here I'm going to take you through our radio program, which is called Kin Women, and this is our logo. And I want to show you the brand kit of our logo, where we use the same color over and over again. We use heaps of white in the background, but the program that we use is called canva.com. I've had virtually ask me a question, what's the name of the layering app? So it's actually called a scheduling app, and it's later. So it's almost like you say, see you later, later.com. It's an app on your phone, and you can also use it on your desktop computer, and you can put all the images that you've created into it, and then it speaks to the app on your phone for Instagram, and then you can connect it through to Facebook as well. So it means that you can have all your content sitting there, and then you're not sitting at your phone trying to create the content. So later.com is really awesome, and I love it. And if you have a square rather than a portrait or a landscape, you can time it to schedule your posts for you, so you don't have to be sitting on it. Sarah, I find Canva images download slightly blurry. Do you have any tips around this? I would check, Sarah, whether you're on the professional account of Canva or you're on the free account, and I would check whether you're using a free image or you're using a paid image, because when it's a paid image, then it downloads with a watermark on it, and maybe that's the blurriness that you're seeing. So Kin Women, we have our logo. So this is the way that I would create something for social media. So we've got our logo right in the middle. We've got our rule of thirds. We've got women facing the ocean, got lots of space in the background. And it's the reason why we're able to then do that. So we have all the different parts of our logo and the way that we use that, and try to use the same colors over and over again, and to be able to use that on there. Here is our typography. So use the same fonts every time you create something. Often what I find businesses do is they will find a template on Canva, for example. So Canva is a publishing tool. So you just go www.canva.com, canva.com, and you create, you might create something from a template that's already there, but you'll use all different random fonts. What you want to do is use the same font over and over again, so you get a consistency of your brand. It's a really, really important part of being able to really build your brand identity. And the way that you can do that is by putting up a quote or putting up feedback and creating little images that then complement the photography that you're taking. So for example, every time we do something online, we use the same photos and the same colors, and colors, you can have a code of what your colors are. So you can have a web code, or you can have a print code, which is CMYK. So there's an opportunity then for you to be able to understand what your color is and to reuse the color over and over. Most businesses would have had a graphic designer create their logo. So make sure with your logo that you go back and you find the exact colors that they've used, find the codes for them, so that you could type those codes into Canva so that you use the same color over and over again. It really impacts your brand, and it's a really important part of that. So this is how it layers out on to your Instagram page and your website page. Mary B has asked, can I change my logo into different colors? You can change your logo into different colors, but I would try to keep your logo really consistent, especially for a whole season, like a year or 2 years, because you really want to build that brand consistency. So if you have a look at our Instagram, you can see that we've got lots of white space around it. We're using our logo. It matches then our website page. So the brand identity is really clear. And our Kin Women page is just it's a not-for-profit radio program here in Perth. But our Facebook page has nearly 10,000 followers. And some of our quotes, so we put up quotes every month, they're different themes. So it might be about social justice, or it might be about women. Like last month, some of our quotes last month went to like 150,000 people. We've had quotes that have had an engagement of over 1 million people. And the reason why that happens is because people love to share quotes that inspire them. So what you'll find is the engagement you get on social media, particularly virally, comes back to sitting in that space of entertainment rather than trying to jam people with your products. So your brand is really important for that, and it's an opportunity for you to be able to do that. So Ryan has asked me, this is so cool, is this a paid version of Canva? No, I've created all of this on the free version of Canva, and I will upgrade to the paid version of Canva, particularly if I want to create a really big document where I'm copying different design work. But outside of that, you can pretty much do everything that you want on Canva for free. And maybe to be able to help Sarah Gray's question about the quality of images, make sure when you're downloading your image on Canva that you download it as a PNG rather than a JPEG, because the PNG is the higher resolution picture. So maybe check that out as well, Sarah. That might be something that's impacting your Canva image. And the way that I use images on Canva as well is I download the ones that I want from Unsplash, and then I load them up onto Canva rather than using Canva's free stock images, because I find that they want to try to make you pay for them, and that's where you kind of get a bit stuck. I hope those are little tips that are helpful. So here's what I mean. So we take the colors, see how very faintly in the background of the red one, you might not be able to see it because it is very faint. There is a picture of me and there's our color filtered over the top of it, but we've just got a really simple quote that's on there. So we're using the same font all the time, and you could sit and do some quotes like this in 1 hour and then put them into a scheduling app, and then suddenly you've got content from now till the end of the year. You could go back and find different client reviews, and you could put up a word, like just one word that really impacts and encourages people around your brand. Like I said, the cafe locally, Rusticos, do, they put up a Spanish word, and so people come back to it. I know a site, an Instagram account that sells children's toys, that every week she puts up a really fun child's name, because everyone knows if you are buying children's toys, often you're a parent, and if you're a new parent, you want some ideas for baby names. So she's become really big because she's resourcing her customers. She resources them. So it's not all about the product. She's thinking, what is it that I can do to help people who want my product? And then she puts it in a way that's really interesting. There's an amazing jewelry designer that lives down my way, and she came to my workshop. And what she does is she does lots of videos around jewelry cleaning and little images like this, where she helps give people tips of how to look after their jewelry. So it's not just the one sale, it's that she's resourcing her customer and she's really helping her customer to be able to do that. So then you could take your logo and you could put it onto some merch, and you could take photos of you wearing your merch. But I think the really big important part of this brand identity kit is this, that you're using the same colors over and over again, that you're using your logo on your images. There's no problem with putting your logo over the top of images that you've downloaded from Unsplash or places like that, that you're putting your logo up and you're putting up feedback from your customers, you're putting up quotes to inspire people, you're creating products. But what you want them to do is you want all of them to connect together. And the main way from a visual identity that they connect together is this, through your fonts, through your colors, and through the types of images that you create. So when there's a consistency around that, it's really important. I have a question from Carla. Is there a rule regarding more suitable colors that we should be using in social media images? I definitely think, Carla, that there are trending colors, but it really comes back to your company and your business and what you're trying to create. There is a color kind of therapy aspect to it, of colors that people really get drawn to when it comes to particular things. So the question I would ask you is to really explore what you want people to feel when they intersect your brand. Do you want them to feel alive and happy? Do you want them to feel calm? Do you want them to feel excited? Do you want them to feel inspired? Then start doing some research around that. And a really great place to be able to find that research information, I find, is Pinterest. So you could type into Pinterest something like the psychology of color, and then Pinterest will tell you what's trending on that. But I wouldn't change your colors too often. You want the consistency of your color to go over years rather than just months. And there's another website, which I'm going to drop in here as another little tip, is if you think that your social media page, especially Instagram, for example, if you think your colors are like this red that our Kin Women color is, but you post lots of images that don't have that color in it, then the colors that you actually post will create a brand identity. So there's a website called ayearofcolor.com, and you type in the handle of your Instagram account, and it will show you what the actual colors you are posting are and what is most consistent in your feed. So you might think that red is the color that you're posting from your brand identity, but you might be posting heaps of photos of the ocean. So actually your color is blue. So it's really interesting. It will create a graph for you. Ayearofcolor.com will create a graph for you, and it will actually tell you the colors that you are posting mostly of. So it really is an interesting tool for you to be able to check what colors you do post. And that might be the color that you really lean towards, and maybe then increase the use of it so that it becomes a real strong brand identity. So here's another stock image that I've got. Can you see the theme in our images? We often have women facing out to landscape kind of spaces, and then we put our logo over the top. And so it's this reoccurring brand that you create, which has the same color, which has the same fonts, and it has similar kind of images that creates a professionality, it creates a consistency, and it creates a real sense of brand identity around what you are posting on social media. So another thing that I do is I create a social media planner for myself, where I'm not the kind of person who encourages that you post like 3 times a day on social media. I think you're better off to post once and to do it really well, or even post twice a week and do it really well and make it really match your brand kit and your brand identity, and to make the photos really fantastic. So for example, on Mondays, you might post a picture of a staff member. So it might be a regular picture of people. On Tuesdays, you might put up a quote. On Wednesdays, you might find a TED video that really resources and helps your people to be able to find that your feed is always inspiring. Or maybe your business brand has a bit of humor and you're quite funny. So every Wednesday you put up something funny. And you don't have to create these memes or the funny things yourself. You can share what other people are doing. Then on Thursday could be your product day, and then you might take the weekend off. So I sit down and I look at my week, or I look at my month, particularly like, for example, for our radio program for kin women, we create a space for us to be able to then put the images across a planner and an opportunity for us to be able to do that. So why don't you just grab a piece of paper now and start to write out a little social media planner of something that you could do and you could commit to after this webinar. Elizabeth asked me, did you suggest once per day or twice per week? Elizabeth, it really depends on your business, and it depends on, do you have someone who's creating that content? What's the quality of your content? What I was saying was, you're better to do less and to make it better quality than you are to do it every single day and it not have the same quality. And the other thing that I want to recommend is that you repurpose content that you've created before. So don't feel like you always have to create new content. So why don't you just take a couple of minutes now to write down some of the types of content that you want to create for your social media planner. So how many times a week do you want to post? Make that decision for yourself. I don't think there's any rules when it comes to this. I think social media has completely changed the way that we interact with brands and with businesses. And I know for myself personally, I don't have the time to spend all day on social media. So I have to be really specific about the way that I use it. So I want you to write down a little plan that you could really commit to for social media now. Take some time to do that. So in the midst of creating really great visual content for your social media accounts, I really want to open up the questions now that I can answer some questions for you. But I want to go back and recap some of the things that we've talked about today. Firstly, I want you to increase the quality of your social media content by the photography that you create, to really create a great sense of appeal and brand identity with what you do. I really want you to find a way to post less but post better quality. And some of the ways that you can do that is take original photos, and I've given you some great tools for you to be able to do that. I want you to find some really great stock photography, which is from websites like Unsplash. And one way that I do that personally is I create a folder on my desktop and I download photos that match the theme that I'm posting on. And I have a theme go for a season rather than just a few days. So for example, I might look at the upcoming spring, and I might decide that across spring, I'm going to talk about locality. I'm going to talk about the city of Perth, and I'm going to download as many photos of the city of Perth that I can, and then I'll regularly post those. Also, what I'm going to do is create content on a website like Canva, and I'm going to take time to create some quotes. I'm going to take time to create some feedback from my clients. I'm going to take time to create some inspiring words. I might find a way to create a resource, and I'm going to mix all of them up in my social media content calendar and find a way to be able to do that well. So if you have any questions, I would love to answer your questions. And this page here, when you download the page from your email, you can turn to us for expert advice from the people who really know small business. So the email address is info@smallbusiness.wa.gov.au. Make sure you email and ask the question. We're in a changing environment right now for social media and for small businesses. And we want to make sure that you get the support, that you get what you need as a business owner. If you've got any questions, you could call 133-140. So give them a call and ask questions that you have. And also the website has so many resources to be able to help you. Okay, so I'm going to start answering some questions now, if that's okay. So Ryan has asked me, your template is so cool. Where did you lay out this? I did it in Canva. So I hope that helps. Canva, canva.com. Okay. Teresa has asked, is there going to be another session so she can see what she's missed? You can contact the Belmont Enterprise Centre and they can give you a recording of today's workshop so you can go back and listen to the recording of it. Does anyone else have any questions for me? Gergley, you mentioned that people use Instagram and Facebook differently. What are the main differences in a nutshell? Instagram is all about your photos and Facebook is all about community and conversation. So they would be the nutshell that I say. Also, Instagram is very much 30 years and under, and Facebook is often and statistically 30 and over. So if your client avatar is under 30, then I would focus on Instagram. If your client avatar is over 30, I'd focus on Facebook. I hope that helps. Ryan said, thank you. Elizabeth, any suggestions about sharing news media posts, photos versus quotes? Should we try to do less sharing of other content? I would kind of go at it. So the question is about how much can you share other people's content in comparison to creating your own. I think what you do when you create your own content, and that's really what today has been about, is that you have the opportunity to really create your sense of brand and your brand voice so that people really understand who you are as a business. But I would make sure that it's not more than 50-50. So I would say 50% created content and 50% shared content is fine. But the question I would ask about shared content is this: is it resourcing your customer? You want your customer to come back and feel like you're sharing and you're resourcing and you're helping them. So it becomes a social media feed that you rely on to be able to help you. So when you're sharing other people's sites, I would do that. And if you're sharing other people's content, make sure you take out a lot of the information that's up the top of the share so it's nice and clean. They would be my recommendations. Elizabeth, any suggestions on time of day to post? Okay, so I get asked this in pretty much every webinar, and everyone's times really differ. So it depends on, do you have a global brand? Do you have a local brand? Are your brands mums? Are your brands young teenagers? And they're all really different. And the best way that you can do that is actually go into the statistics and the insights behind your brand and see when it is that your people are online the most. So you can see that in the back end of both Facebook and Instagram. I don't think there is any best time to post because everyone's audience is completely different. If it was a mum audience, I would say 2:45 right before school pickup. If it was a teenage audience, I would say 11 o'clock at night. If it was a business audience, I'd say 9 o'clock on a Monday morning. So it really differs to who your avatar is. Rosalind, what about videos? Any tips for that? Rosalind, I would say when it comes to videos that I would really make sure that your sound is good. So the way that you can really easily increase your sound quality if you're taking videos on like iPhones, is that you could grab a Rode mic. You can get them from places like JB Hi-Fi. They're not very expensive, but they plug into your phone and they increase the quality of your microphone like 500%. I would also say with videos is keep them short. I would also say with videos, make sure that the background is fantastic. So it's really clean, simple backgrounds. They would be my 3 tips. Get better sound quality, make the video short, and make sure your background is really clean. I hope that's helpful. Natalie, thanks so much. Thanks. She said excellent tips and information. Simona, revamping brand content, where to start, budget. Okay, I'm not really sure. Are you asking how much the budget should be? It really depends on so many different things, but where to start, I would go and talk to a graphic designer. Or if you wanted to do it yourself, then I would go through a course on Canva. They do some really great free courses on brand identity and really creating a really simple brand for your business. Nilda said, thank you very much. How do you get a perfect photo from your iPhone? Nilda, I would go back to those first things that I talked about. The quality of the photo comes back to your focus, it comes back to your background, and it comes back to really lining up your shot so that it's really clear. So that's what I would say to that. Okay, Nilda, if you look up the Belmont Enterprise Corporation, they would be able to give you the beginnings of the workshop. Is there any way to remove backgrounds? Adam, that really is more a Photoshop. You would need to use Photoshop to be able to do that rather than Canva. Canva is starting to play around with that, and they have increased their capacity to do that. Another way that you can do it is you can save the image as a vector image. That's getting a bit technical, but Photoshop is the best way to do it. Rosalind, the time of a video, I would say videos should not be any longer than 3 to 4 minutes. I think that's really important. Thanks so much, everyone who's encouraging me. I've got lots of encouraging messages here. I'm really grateful. Have you used a photography light box, and would you recommend getting one? I think photography light boxes are really fantastic if you have a product. So I would need to know, Selena, whether you were trying to take photos of products. I have used them, and I've used them with clients before, but I actually really prefer now Flatlays, because I find that Flatlays you get a little bit more perspective and height in the photo. Whereas light boxes, you're quite limited to the size of the light box and the space that's created in the light box. So I quite like a natural look, but that's just my preference. It really depends on what your product is. But I would set up a Flatlay personally, and I would use natural light rather than a light box. But honestly, it really does depend on what the kind of product it is. Thank you so much, Nilda. Background remover on Canva, is that what it's called? The new one, Amanda, I think she's just said that for you, Mark. Was it Mark? No, it was Adam, that it's called background remover on Canva. But Photoshop definitely would do a really great job of that. Carla, have you got any tips in regarding what would be the basic equipment if you want to set up a small space to take some photos in your home office? So Carla, I really love, I have an Olympus OMD DLSR camera, and the reason why I love it is it actually Wi-Fi's the photos straight to my phone, so then I can use them for social media really easily. So I think a DSLR camera will always take a better photo than an iPhone, but iPhones are still really amazing. Or Samsung. I always get in trouble from all the Android users, or an Android phone as well. The capability of phone photography has changed so much, particularly in the last 2 years. And secondly, I would get a tripod. So I would get a tripod, and I would personally get a really great camera. And that's quite simple. And you can even get really great secondhand cameras on, like, you know, Facebook Marketplace or Gumtree. There's really great ways for you to be able to do that. Okay, Amanda is saying, when in regards to Canva, if Adam is still with us, that you need to be on the paid plan to be able to take the backgrounds from images off. Kellyanne said, thanks. Thanks, everyone. I've already created a quote on a Facebook campaign in the last 5 minutes using Canva. So easy. Fantastic, Linda. Thank you. Okay, no worries if you have to go, Janine. We're just answering questions now. Nirangela said, can you recommend a good brand of microphone for a video? Yes, definitely. I would say Rode. So RHODE, Rode microphone. They're online and you can also get them at places like JB Hi-Fi, and I think they're amazing for video. Thanks, everyone. Yes, for products. Selena said, thanks for the tips and app recommendations. Thank you. No worries, everyone. Nilda, if you use YouTube, the video should be 3 to 5 minutes. It really depends, Nilda, on what it is that you're doing. If you're doing like a explanation of a product, then you could go to 15 or so minutes. But the longer the video is, the better the content needs to be. I was talking 3 to 5 minutes really about social media and how fast people flick through stuff. Even 30 seconds is, you have to be able to capture people in a video in 30 seconds really to be able to get it. Well, I hope that helps, Nilda. Ryan, my camera is Olympus. So Olympus, OMD, and there's lots of different versions of it now, but it Wi-Fi straight to my phone, so it's really great. Yep, Sarah's asked, Olympus OMD, Mark 10. Yep, that's right. That's the camera I have, Sarah, and I love it. What photo apps did you recommend throughout the presentation? Lucinda, so the photo apps that I recommended was one called Visco, VSCO, or are you talking about, maybe you're talking about stock photography rather than photo editing apps. So if you go to your email, Lucinda, all of my slides are in there. You can download it and have a look at it. No worries, it's got all the information. But the stock photography sites, Unsplash, Pexels, and Pixabay. So I hope that helps. Nirangela, do you use any special lighting for your videos? I think natural light is really great, but often taking videos means that you need to do them straight away. I don't use special lighting for videos, no, but that would really depend on the kind of video that you're using, and natural light's a really great way for you to be able to counterbalance that. Megan, what is the app that you use that identifies your brand colors? It's actually a website. It's not an app, and it's called A Year. So ayearofcolor.com. A Year of Color, and basically you type in your Instagram handle, and it tells you all the colors that are on your site, and it really helps you identify what the colors are. So I'll double check it. Well, there's no at the bottom. It's just yearofcolor.com. So yearofcolor.com, and then it gives you a really amazing picture of all the colors you've used. Lots of thank yous here. Been really helpful. Thanks so much, everyone, for your time. Does anyone else have any last questions for us? It's a bit different online than it is in person, so we've gone a little bit shorter. But I'd love to answer any questions if anyone has any. It's so nice to hear from you all. Everyone's saying thanks. Oh, thank you, Nirangela. That's lovely. Thank you, everyone. Well, one thing that you can really do is go back and check in on all the slides and have a listen. If you want to go back and watch the webinar again, you can get in contact with the Belmont Enterprise Centre and they can help you. They're the people that sent out the information about today's website. The Small Business Development Corporation doesn't do that. You go back to the Belmont Enterprise Centre, and they have so many webinars and so much information. So Mark, it's not art. So Mark has said tried to open a Year of Colour. It's just Year of Colour. I put the art at the beginning, but it's not there. So just yearofcolour.com. So try that for me, Mark, and see how you go. Oh, thanks so much, everyone. Oh, no worries, Mark, at all. It was me that got it wrong. Does anyone else have any questions for me? Well, thank you everyone for your time here. Don't forget, if you've got any questions about your business, that you log into all the different resources that the Small Business of WA government has for you. And I hope that you just have an amazing fun time creating really fantastic content and photos for your business. Have a great time, everyone. See ya.